Matt, is Adrian, Liverpool's backup goalkeeper, who proved to be their Super Cup hero. He saved Tammy Abraham's spot kick to help them beat Chelsea 5-4 on penalties after the two sides couldn't be separated at 2-2 after the extra time period. Our football reporter, Matt Faruqi, is back in the Sports Today studio, and it is a remarkable turnaround for someone who was a free agent after being released by West Ham, Maz. And here is Adrian, the hero for Liverpool.
Absolutely, Lee. As recently as 9 days ago, he was a free agent, in fact, as you say, after being released by West Ham in June. And of course, following Simon Mignolet's move to Club Brugge earlier this month, it left Jurgen Klopp down a goalkeeper, so they signed Adrian as cover for Alisson, and luckily they did that, of course, because Alisson is now out for a couple of weeks after he was injured in that opening league match against Norwich on Friday. So Adrian has effectively jumped up the pecking order, and his heroics on Wednesday night, as we heard there, inspired some reaction from his manager. Considering where this ranks in trophies Liverpool could win this season, it was like they'd won the European Cup again.
What a story! Adrian! Like Rocky!
So some reaction there from Klopp immediately on the field to our TV colleagues here in the UK. That was to BT Sport. But once he was given a bit of time to calm down, he was a little bit more considered. Still the jokey Klopp that we know, but he was saying that Liverpool could have done with Adrian in their penalty shootout in the Community Shield, which of course they lost to Manchester City.
I don't know where Adrian was 2 weeks ago when we played Man City. When I spoke to him first time, he told me, yes, I had a goalie coach and stuff like this, so it was clear he will need time to get fit. But we didn't have that time, so he has to be fit now, and he was fit. He played an incredible game. He had sensational saves.
So success then for Liverpool, Maz. What about Chelsea? They've opened up with back-to-back defeats now for their new manager, Frank Lampard.
Indeed, Leo. I don't think Lampard will be too worried about Wednesday's defeat, because his side did make progress in comparison to their performance at Old Trafford on Sunday, and he did look relaxed. There was some joking between the managers on the touchline when the game went to extra time, both of them saying they could do without a finish of after 1 a.m. local time on Thursday morning, because of course they've both got weekend fixtures to focus on in the Premier League. And crucially, Lampard made some tactical tweaks that would seem to make a difference. And N'Golo Kante in particular was used in a different role than he was under Maurizio Sarri, so that's pleased the fans already, I think. And remember, Chelsea had 2 disallowed goals in the Super Cup final, so showing more promise going forward already, and Lampard says he can already see an improvement in his side.
I think there were some signs against Manchester United. You just can't talk about them too much when you lose 4-0. But I think it was very clear that it's a really good performance from us against the top team who have been building for years. Liverpool have got to where they've got. I have complete respect for Jurgen Klopp and the team they have. I'm a new manager that's been here for 6 weeks or so, and what I saw today was the things that I want in the team, the work ethic, the desire.
That's Frank Lampard. Chelsea plays up with City in their next match in the Premier League at the weekend. Let's just focus on another Premier League side now, though, Maz. Arsenal. Mesut Ozil and Said Kolasinac missed last weekend's win over Newcastle because of what we were told was further security incidents. Is there any indication now of that situation getting resolved?
Yes, that absence last weekend, of course, came off the back of an attempted carjacking involving the 2 players a few weeks ago in North London. Now, manager Unai Emery was asked about the pair in his pre-match media conference today that he gave ahead of Arsenal's match against Burnley in the Premier League on Saturday. He obviously didn't go into details about what those security concerns that you referred to there. He didn't really go into that, but he did confirm that the club are helping the players with private security when they're away from the club, and that he would make a decision on Friday about whether the two would play at the weekend against Burnley. They are back in training now this week, but he was pushed on that. He was asked by the BBC's Natalie Perks if he was sure the players were mentally as well as physically ready.
100% with them, with their mentality is now and focused for us.
And have they given you a sense of how scary it was for them?
Really, my focus is be positive and think with the players they are 100% with his mind here, and I want to help them.
It's Unai Emery. Arsenal play Burnley on Saturday, and the transfer window is still open across most of the European leagues. What have you been keeping your eye on, Matt?
Well, obviously the Neymar saga continues, Lee. Where will he go from Paris Saint-Germain? That continues to rumble. It appears PSG have turned down bids from both Barcelona, Neymar's old club, of course, and Real Madrid, holding out, I think, for better offers. Remember, they spent an awful lot of money on Neymar, buying him out of his contract at Barcelona 2 years ago. But we know that I think both parties want a deal to happen at some point. And we know another player, perhaps, with a move on the card to Spain is Tottenham's Christian Eriksen. He expressed interest to leave in the European summer, but he has 1 year left on his contract at Tottenham, and it looks like he may stay. Featured today in the photo shoot for Tottenham's new kit, so perhaps he is staying put for the time being. Read what you will into that, Lee. And Chile's Alexis Sanchez, he's had a very difficult time at Manchester United, hasn't he? But we believe the club are keen to offload him. A return to Italy looks like it could be on the cards. Reports that Napoli, AC and Inter Milan all potentially interested in signing him. And obviously they could offer him the chance of regular football as well, couldn't they?
He's appearing in a photo shoot, a little hint maybe. We will see what happens with that. Just before you go, Maz, we understand that mediation talks between the USA Women's World Cup winning side and the country's football federation over the issue of equal pay have broken down.
We have, yes, Lee. This seriously damages hopes, I think, that the situation could be resolved without the two sides ending up in federal court. Remember, 28 female players took the United States Soccer Federation to court in March, alleging that they were consistently paid less than their male counterparts, even though, of course, their achievements on the world stage, on the pitch, are superior. They won the World Cup for the fourth time last month. The men's sides have never been beyond the last four. Now, the players' representative today, Molly Leveson, said the players are eagerly looking forward to a jury trial, and she accused the federation of deliberately releasing misleading information to the public over the last few months. Now, a US soccer spokesman said they, on the other hand, are continuing to work to find a resolution.
That's our football reporter, Maz Faruqi. Earlier I spoke to Lindsay Horan, a member of the US Women's World Cup team, and news of those talks breaking down then today. Is she still hopeful about the eventual outcome?
I'm very hopeful and trying to stay optimistic. I think a lot of things have to come into play, and this mediation is going to be a huge deal. So I think we have great representation there, and I'm hoping that U.S. soccer makes a good stand and tries to negotiate with us and figure things out. And I think I'm just going to stay very hopeful.
And you're providing that voice, obviously, for women, for equal pay, not just in football. How aware are you of that role then that you now play in society?
Yeah, I mean, I think, being kind of one of the younger players, even though it doesn't feel like it, for so long it was, looking up to the leaders on our team that, really voiced this, and we kind of were, behind them and all of it. I think now a lot of us younger players are like, wow, we are a part of it, and we have to continue to be a voice as well. It's not just, our older players, our more veteran players. We need to take a bigger role as well. So I think it's us kind of learning the reins on that, and learning and being knowledgeable of everything that's going on. I think that's very crucial for us as well, because it is like, our team is greater than just a soccer team right now. It's what is going on, and I think there's so many brands and endorsers that are also jumping on board with us. So it's really cool. It's surreal too, just to see this movement happening.
That's Lindsay Horan, the US international midfielder and World Cup winner. This is Sport Today. You're with the BBC World Service. Now to boxing, and the unified world heavyweight champion Andy Ruiz Jr. says he's happy for a rematch with Anthony Joshua, but only on his terms. Ruiz shocked the world by beating Joshua to take the IBF, WBA and WBO heavyweight titles. A rematch was announced by Joshua's promoter this week for Saudi Arabia on December the 7th. But Ruiz says he wants to return to New York's Madison Square Garden. But how much say does Ruiz have over a rematch? Is our boxing reporter Adi Adedoy.
Contractually, not a lot. So the background to this is when he signed to fight Anthony Joshua in June, there would have been a rematch clause in the contract. Had he been a mandatory challenger, the number one contender, then there wouldn't have been a rematch clause. But because he was a voluntary defense, it's not uncommon for the champion to put a rematch clause in there just in case he loses the belt. It would have stipulated a fee that Ruiz would get in the event of a rematch, but it would also have said that Anthony Joshua's team will control the promotions for the rematch. So they will control when the fight happens, the date, the venue, the broadcast deals, etc. So from that point of view, there is a legally binding document that says he has to fight Anthony Joshua next. So from a legal standpoint, he doesn't really have a leg to stand on. If you go by the past experiences, one case that comes to mind is when Lennox Lewis fought Hasim Rahman. Lewis had a rematch clause in that contract. Rahman tried to go in a different direction. They went to court and Lewis won. And the judge said that Rahman would either have to fight Lewis next or not fight anybody for 18 months, by which point he would have been stripped of the title, so he had no option but to go through with a rematch clause. So if history is anything to go by, Andy Ruiz Jr. is in a very difficult position as far as this is concerned if he wants to take it to the United States.
Ultimately then, is that where you see this going, that Joshua's team will get what they want in the end?
Yes, I think that's what's going to happen, and I think what Ruiz probably wants, and what's probably behind this, is the fact that he wants a better deal for the rematch. We understand that the rematch clause guaranteed him around about 9.5 million. That's an awful lot of money, but the situation has changed somewhat with this bout about to happen in Saudi Arabia, because we understand that the Saudi authorities put down a big site fee. We've heard it's over 40 million, could be as much as 100 million, which would guarantee Anthony Joshua around about the $50 million mark by the time you've added pay-per-view revenue, gate receipts, etc. So when you look at it in that context, 9.5 million all of a sudden doesn't seem that much for the champion, who obviously caused a huge upset. And I think behind all this might be an attempt by Andy Ruiz and his team to get a better deal as far as the rematch is concerned. But as I say, there is a legally binding contract that he signed, which meant he had to give Joshua a rematch, which meant that contract team would determine the terms of the rematch. That's the date and the venue. They've given him that, so he has no option really but to go through with it or face a legal challenge.
That's our boxing reporter, Adi Adoy. Now, have a listen to this. That's the sound of Nick Kyrgios smashing his racket, two of them in fact, into a wall following a meltdown on court. This latest incident happened during a bad-tempered defeat to the Russian Karen Khachanov at the Cincinnati Masters. We can go there live now. Our tennis correspondent Russell Fuller is there for us and saw that incident, the latest in a long line of these controversies surrounding Nick Kyrgios, Russell. And we've had a response now from the ATP, the men's tour. What action have they taken?
They have given him a very significant and mighty fine of $113,000, which is around about £93,000. And in addition to that, he could potentially be found guilty under the player major offence section of the code. That could result in an additional fine and or suspension, and this after reigniting what is becoming a running feud with the umpire Fergus Murphy in the second set of the match with Karen Khachanov last night. He swore at him, he abused him, he called him the worst umpire in the game, and then left the court, as you were hearing, to smash two rackets, having been forbidden to leave the court to take a bathroom break. His intent was to smash those rackets. He walked back onto court and at the end of the match called the umpire a tool, no handshake, and a spit on the ground as he walked past him.
Now, whatever sanction comes his way, though, it is unlikely, you would imagine, to change the behaviour from Kyrgios, because clearly this is not the first incident like this.
No, I agree. I think that even though it is a large sum of money and he's out of pocket for the week quite substantially, I don't think it's going to change his behaviour. He's a very, very wealthy man, as well as his prize money. There are endorsements, there are adherence fees that players get at many of the events throughout the year. What could perhaps be a reason for changing his behaviour is the action the ATP could take in future. He's been found guilty twice of a player major offence, and if he were to be found guilty again, the ATP could do what they did in Shanghai in 2016 when he'd been found guilty of playing with insufficient effort against Misha Zverev in the Masters Series event there. They suspended him for 8 weeks, but that was reduced to 3 weeks as Kyrgios agreed to enter a plan of care under the direction of a sports psychologist.
Okay, we'll see what happens with Nick Kyrgios. Let's get to matters on the court from today. And you've seen the top seed, Ashley Barty, play. How did she get on?
She came through a very tight match against the very talented and very dangerous Anett Kontaveit of Estonia. She dropped the first set 6-4. Kontaveit was serving for the match in the second set, but Barty came through, took the set 7-5, and the decider also by 7 games to 5. And at the moment we're watching Venus Williams up against Donna Vekic of Croatia. It's 1 game all in the third set. Williams lost the first set 6-2 and then ordered a coffee, and it seems to have the desired effect.
Well, it's had an impact then. What about later? Roger Federer, always the headline, Russell?
Yes, Federer will be on court before too long. In fact, after this match against the Russian qualifier Andrei Rublev, he went caravanning with his family in Switzerland after losing the Wimbledon final to Novak Djokovic to try and clear his mind. He's in the same half of the draw as Djokovic here. Tough section of the draw, in fact. Everybody plays today, so we'll see Djokovic, Karen Khachanov is back, and also Daniel Medvedev, who is a very much in-form Russian, has already won. The other half of the draw looks more straightforward. Only two seeded players left. We have Roberto Bautista, who got the 11th seed, and David Goffin, who is the 16th seed.
Russell, thanks for joining us, Russell, for at the Cincinnati Masters. I'm here at Lord's, and today the ground has been supporting the Ruth Strauss Foundation. It has turned red. The players from both sides were wearing special commemorative shirts with the foundation logo on, red caps and red numbers on their backs, and many of the spectators also here today wearing something red. This is all in memory of the former wife of the England cricket captain Andrew Strauss, who died last December from a rare form of lung cancer at the age of 46. Andrew Strauss set up the foundation in her memory, and today he was here with his two sons, who rang the Lord's bell that marks the traditional start of life.
It has been an emotional day. It's obviously, a great testament to